Today, I'm going to be showing you a build around possibly the best strength weapon in all of Elden Ring, and I'm giving this weapon that title because not only does it hit like any other greatsword, dealing thousands of damage and can break enemies' poises really quickly, but it also has one of the fastest DPSs, making it one of the most devastating weapons in the game. And of course, that weapon in question is none other than the Star Fists. Now, of course, for those of you that don't know how to get your hands on this weapon, first of all you need to do is work your way to the capital of Lionel, because when you get there you can walk up to the Colosseum, and if you wrap around to the left there'll be like an opening you can go to where there will be a corpse to which you can obviously collect the Star Fist from. And don't worry, even if you've gone far enough into your game to turn the capital into the capital of Ash, you can still walk this similar path. You just sort of have to go a roundabout way to get up to the Colosseum. So even if you've completed your playthrough and transformed the capital into the capital of Ash, you can still go and collect this weapon. And I highly suggest that you do so, because as you're going to see in the gameplay in the background, as much as this is a fist weapon, so you'd probably think, it's not going to do that much damage, is it? Well, you would be wrong, because it does thousands of damage, even with the quick attacks. But of course, if you use the charged heavies, you'll be doing even more damage and breaking most bosses' poises in around about 3 or 4 hits. The main benefits of this weapon is that it requires very minimal stats in order to wield it, so you can pretty much put it on your character straight away, and it has a natural bleed, whilst also allowing you to change the Ash of War. And I know this particular Ash of War I'm about to speak about is becoming a bit of a favourite on the channel right now, but I do highly recommend that you put the Cragblade Ash of War. And I'm just going to clear up, because in the past couple of videos where I was using Cragblade for the first time, I actually misguided you in saying that the affinity of the weapon changes when you put the Ash of War on. Me, being the best researcher on the planet, misread how Cragblade works, and I thought it was changing the affinity into the heavy affinity, as well as giving a plus 15% damage boost to your physical damage. But it turns out it is only giving a plus 15% damage boost. It is not affecting the scaling by turning it into a heavy variant. So when I said before you get the boost in scaling as well as the 15%, that is of course wrong. And just to be abundantly clear, all Cragblade does is give you a plus 15% damage boost to your physical damage, as well as a plus 10% boost to your poise damage. So when you do apply the Cragblade Ash of War, I do advise putting it into a heavy variant, because like I say, the weapon has a natural bleed on it anyway, and although that will remain at 45, that is still going to be enough to get a nice proc once or twice during certain boss fights, and it is sort of like a nice little bonus amount of damage that you'll deal if that is somewhat necessary, because you're already going to be doing a load of damage anyway. But of course, with all of that cleared up, and once you've applied the Ash of War to the weapon, I highly suggest running these stats. And of course, as always with the builds on this channel, this is a level 150 character, and as you can see, we've got 50 points into vigor, again as always, 10 points into mind, 26 into endurance, 80 into strength, 10 in dexterity, 10 in intelligence, 33 faith, and then 10 arcane. And if it probably wasn't clear enough by those stats already, the starting class of my character was a wretch character. Of course, feel free to use a different starting character which maybe delves into a bit more strength, like the hero for instance. Either way, as you can see, there's really only 4 stats that we actually delve all of our points into, and of course the main one being strength, as that is going to be the only stat that is going to dictate our damage output, as we've changed the weapon into a heavy variant. But we've also got 33 points into faith, so that we can run both Golden Vow and the Howl of Shibiri to give us a 15% damage boost with Golden Vow and 25% extra damage boost with the Howl of Shibiri. Of course, for those of you that maybe want to play it a little bit more safe, where Howl of Shibiri is actually going to increase the damage that you take by 30% whilst it's also active, you can of course use something like Flame Grant Me Strength instead to boost your physical damage once again, and also boost your stamina regen, and then you can take the extra points out of faith and chuck them into strength once more. But I'm a bit of a risk taker, and I would love to have that additional 25% damage output, so that is why I'm running Howl of Shibiri, as of course I'm trying to get the best damage output possible. Either way, if you're running Howl of Shibiri or Flame Grant Me Strength, I do highly recommend running these following talismans. And again, just straight off the bat, to give us an extra 10% boost to our damage output, we are going to run the Ritual Swords talisman, as that will be the case whenever we're at full HP. But then I would also suggest running the Axe talisman as well, where we're going to focus on those charged heavy attacks. We'll be getting an extra 10% damage output with those attacks as well. But then, like I mentioned at the very beginning, this weapon can also be used as a DPS demon, and in which case I do highly recommend running both the Rotten Wing Insignia and Millicent's Prosthesis to basically get that additional attack power with your successive damage output before then hitting your enemy with the heavy attacks just to deal even more damage with that boost active. But if that's still not quite cutting it for you in terms of damage boosts, don't worry, because we've still got the Wonder Physic, and inside of that I recommend that you mix both the Strength Knot tier and the Stone Barb Crack tier, especially if you're in a later New Game Plus, because of course you'll get an additional 10 points in strength, boosting your physical damage output, and then the Stone Barb Crack tier will boost your poise damage by a further 30%, which again of course is another reason why this weapon breaks every single boss's poise really easily. And essentially with everything active all at the same time, where we've changed the Ash of War, you've got an A-rated scaling weapon that, like I say, has a natural bleed on it that will occur like every so often, sort of after every sort of 6, 7, 8 hits, whilst being able to hit like an absolute truck as if you're using something like the regular greatsword, dealing sort of like 2,000-3,000 damage every time you use a heavy attack, whilst doing a load of poise damage. But then you can also switch it up for more free-flowing fights, like say against Godfrey, by using the two-handed DPS attacks, similar to that of like a dual-wield curve sword, where you're going to be doing multiple hits in very quick succession, and of course those buffs with Millicent's Prosthesis and the Rotten Wind Insignia are going to boost your damage output quite a lot as well. Also, again, just to be abundantly clear, although it looks like I'm using 2 Star Fists in this build, I am only using the one because when you two-hand this weapon, it gives you a second Star Fist in your offhand. So realistically, whenever you are using this weapon, you are going to want to two-hand it so that you can make use of the unique quick attacks and also the much harder hitting heavy attack. So although this is a weapon that's very close quarters, and of course as a strength weapon, it's actually really versatile and is very good against every single enemy, purely for the fact that it's a strength weapon and we're using pure physical damage. So you don't necessarily have to worry about resistances, because even if they are resistant to bleed, you're just going to be breaking their poises, dealing a load of critical hits, and just having an absolute blast, decimating everything in Elden Ring. I personally don't use fist weapons too much, which is why you've probably noticed the last couple of builds have included things like the Venomous Fang, Iron Balls, and also this Star Fist build, because once I've actually used them for the first time and made a decent build around them like this, they are actually a whole heap of fun, and I have genuinely been missing out on these golden weapons, and it's no surprise as to why the community praises them as much as they do, because they are literally insane. And I forgot to mention it, and if you are obviously still watching right now, the gameplay that you're seeing in the background is from New Game Plus 6, so all of the damage that you're seeing is of course going to be even more if you're in your earlier playthroughs, but even still, this build is capable of rinsing through the majority of fights and is more than capable of taking on all of the bosses, which is why I'm dubbing this as one of the best strength weapons in all of Elden Ring. So there you have it, that is the ultimate Star Fist build, and like I say, it's extremely fun to use, so I do heavily recommend that you guys go and get this weapon and use it for yourself. But let me know, are you a fan of fist weapons? Have you ever used the Star Fist before in your playthroughs? Of course, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, I am not the best Elden Ring player out there, so if you've got any ways to make this build even better, then feel free again to let us know in the comments, because I know where we've got a lot of faith in this build, we can actually run a few incantations. I personally didn't, just because I wanted to keep with the physical damage and just show off the weapon itself, but you could possibly add a few incantations in there, add a bit more range, and of course a little bit more versatility to this build. So of course, feel free to let me know your feelings on that. But whilst you're down there, if you don't mind me cheekily asking you to leave a like rating on this video if you happen to enjoy this or found it useful in any way. By leaving a like, it helps out the channel tremendously, and it's the quickest way to let me know that you want to see more builds like this. Of course, we've got the DLC fast approaching, which is why I'm covering a whole bunch of builds for you guys to try and keep things fresh and entertaining until we get that elusive content. And for those of you that don't know and maybe haven't been around the community for a little while, we are now actually live streaming on this channel twice a week week using a brand new character as chosen by you guys as sort of like a preparation for the DLC. So we're going through the game again, like I say, from scratch with a brand new character. So if you also want to get involved with that journey, then feel free to join our live streams. They're going to be happening between 9:30 AM and 12 PM every Tuesday and Thursday, and that is going to be UK time, so BST. And of course, I'll be taking suggestions as to what builds you want to see or what weapons you want me to use. So if you want to stick around for that, as well as the upcoming videos around all sorts of overpowered builds, then make sure that you're subscribed. It's of course free to do, and you can stay up to date with all of the live streams, videos, and everything else that happens here on the channel. But other than that, I believe that's everything that I need to say. So of course, thank you so much for watching this video. Go and have an absolute blast with this build and let me know how you get on if you do happen to use it, and I guess I will catch you in the next video of whatever it is that we make. Bye bye.